Thank you for inviting me. I want to thank the virtual stereoscopic community first for inviting me. I am Christian Heymans. I am from Belgium, and I am animator for a 2D traditional animation film, and I'm also an illustrator. And I would like to make a presentation called Let's Put This Little Monkey in 3D. And first, I will tell you a bit about my background. So here you can see a bit of my background. These are 16 millimeters film because I did my studies in Brussels in an animation school. It was in the late 90s, and we had the chance to still use analog film, 16 millimeters film, and big 16 millimeters camera. And actually, I think that's one of the things that developed my love for all the optical analog machines. So here you can see on the left an animation stand we were using to film our animation. It was a it was a big camera and a big animation stand. And next to it, you can see a piece of film, of 16 millimeters film, with you can see a bit of a short film I made in school with a little rocket. So we were using 16 millimeters film, and voila, you can see how it looked once you get it developed from the laboratory. And here is another thing I wanted to show you. It's while I was a student in Brussels, I was living very close to the Museum of Cinema. And it was really a wonderful place. It was a place where you could see a lot of old optical devices that were from the area before cinema. And they had, for example, magic lanterns and other pre-cinema tools. And for me, the magic lanterns, they are like a projection system, a very primitive projection system. And they were really magical to me. And you could also try them, and you could try other machine by pressing button in the museum. And the entrance for the museum was for free. So actually, I was nearly going there every night because it was open at night. And you could just go there in the evening and spend some time there. And this is another place that developed my love for optical devices. And that's another thing here that I really liked is the Viewmasters. I was having Viewmasters as a child, and it was during the 80s, so I think I was having some Transformer Viewmaster, something about the Muppet Show. And later I got the Viewmaster about Snow White and Tarzan, the famous Tarzan Viewmaster with the sculpture. And this got me into the 3D. This I was really interested by these Viewmasters, and I was wondering how they worked. And I love the light when you look into them. I love how the light was looking, and the 3D effect, of course. And so after the animation school, I worked on 2D animated feature films. I was working on commercials. I worked on a TV series too for UK, and I worked on some comic strips too. And after some years, I wanted a change, and I started to make some illustrations. And I was having actually a little plush monkey, and I decided to create a little cartoon monkey for my illustration. So this is inspired by a little plush monkey, but it changed a lot when I was drawing it. And so here is the first drawing I made of this little monkey. And here you are having the other first drawings I made of it. So there is the little monkey is called the Sponjo. And so you are having a little crazy jumping Sponjo, a kissing Sponjo is sending you a little kiss to all of you, and a little walking Sponjo because he likes to go for walks outside. He really enjoys going for a little evening walks and just looking at the landscapes, you will see. And here is a little Sponjo checking his 16 millimeters film reels, Uh, And here, as I told you, he likes to go for a walk outside. As you can see here, I decided to make the background a bit more sophisticated. I decided to start including backgrounds, so the illustration got a bit more sophisticated. And here are some other illustrations I did with some other animals here. And also here you can see that I was always trying to work on the backgrounds. And while I was doing these illustrations, I reminded my love for the magic lanterns that I had seen in the Museum of Cinema. And we entered the era of internet. We had internet. And I noticed that actually you could buy a magic lantern. It was not so expensive. So I bought two magic lanterns. So I bought this one. You can see it in this little box. And on the sides, you can see the magic lantern slides. You see, this is an old magic lantern slide. And you put them in two. And I changed the light actually. I put an electric light inside, and you have a projection on your wall of an image. And this is an image I made myself because I wanted to create magic lantern slides. And I was trying to play with the transparency to make a slide, but actually it was very difficult because I had to find a way to print it on a piece of glass because the slides are made of glass. And I was checking a bit, it was very expensive. I tried to make it differently, but it was not working so well. So I was feeling a bit sad. But while I was searching for these magic lanterns online, I was starting to see this more and more on the web pages. I think you know what it is. It's an old stereoscope. And I was very curious and I started to look at it, to read about it. And I understood that it was the ancestor of my old Viewmaster viewer. And I bought one. I bought this old stereoscope, and it came with some scanned stereoscopic views. Here you can see it. I think it's more than 100 years old, and it's still in a very good state. And voila. So I was buying this stereoscope with these stereoscopic slides. I was very fascinated by it and by these 3D images and by the machine itself that I think looks really good. And as I told you, I noticed that it was the grandpa of my old ViewMaster viewer. And at that time, I made this illustration. This was the illustration I made when I received the stereoscope. And while I was doing this illustration, I started to think, this would look nice in 3D, I thought. I put the little leaves, I put a lot of depth in the illustration, and I thought, actually, it would be a good 3D image, I think. But I had no idea how to do it. And so what I did, I said, okay, I'm gonna try to play with the image and see if I can find a way to put it in 3D. And Here you can see I was printing it on a postcard too. Here is a postcard version of this image. And so I was trying to study a bit these kind of images to see what was the difference between the two images. And voila. And now I will explain you how I put this image in 3D because when I published the finished result, a lot of people were asking me, are you using a converter? How are you doing to put them in 3D? And so I will explain it here. Actually, there are two steps when I do the illustration. The first step is that I do the line, all the outline in a program called Flash. It's an old program, actually. And once I do the line of all the character, of the animals, the background, I export it in Photoshop. And in Photoshop, every element is on a different layer. For example, the line for the face will be on a layer, the line for the feet will be on a layer, the line for a leaf will be on a different layer. In the end, I often end up with more than 100 layers. And then I color them using Photoshop. I color each of them, and so I have everything on separated layers. And so to make the stereoscopic view, I needed a second image. So I duplicated this image. Voila. And here on the side, you can see the column with all the layers. I really had many of them. So I duplicated the image. And when I work first on the cross ties version. And so I look like an idiot when I work because I'm having my eyes crossed all the time. And and then I was having, of course, it was flat since the two images are the same. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna start moving the leaf in the front, the red leaf here in the front, and I see what happens. And then I started to push it on the right. And I noticed that the more I was pushing it on the right, the more it looked like it was close to me. And on the contrary, the more I would let an element in the same position on the two images, the more it would look like it's far away in the background. And so I moved every element one by hand, the little mice, all the leaves, the little snail, the feet, the little fox in the background, the trees, everything, I moved it manually one by one until they were on a good depth, until it was the 3D view was satisfying to me. Of course, I had, I don't know, 200 layers. My computer was constantly telling me that I had no more memory left. It was a bit difficult, but in the end, I managed to have my 3D view. And when I had my first cross-ties 3D view, I wanted to make some kind of framing around it. So the framing is done with the Photoshop. I did this framing, and I got the inspiration for this by looking at my old stereoscopic views. I noticed that they were having some logo and some writing on the side. So I did something a bit like this. I wrote in an old-fashioned French postcard company something. I was looking at this one too. I wanted to make some kind of round borders too. And so I got this. Voila. And then I made the parallel version. This is the parallel version. And then I was putting them together to publish them on internet. I published them on some social networks, and the people liked it. I was surprised. I got quite a good response. I had a lot of people asking me, How did you do it? Did you draw it yourself? Did you use a converter?" And I said, "Yeah, I was manually moving everything by hand in Photoshop, and voila." And this is another image I did because a lot of my friends were not familiar with these 3D images. So I made a little image to explain how to view the cross-tiles version. I don't know if they managed to see it because I know some people cannot see it and some people manage to see it. And then when I had them, I wanted to use them in my old stereoscope. So I had to print them. And I was printing them. And as you can see, the paper was a bit too big. So on the empty space of the paper, I was also printing some other images. Like this, I don't lose the paper. These two images, I actually cutting them and using them to make little fridge magnets. And so I was cutting this image. And then with this little tool that I think some of you are also using, I was cutting the borders. I made round borders like on the old stereoscopic views. And then I put it in my old stereoscope to see if it was fitting. And I was happy. It was perfectly fitting. And here I tried it in another stereoscope I bought. And actually, this one is from Mexico. It's a Mexican stereoscope, and it is in really good shape. The glass is still very clear, actually. And I think it's also nearly 100 years old. And this is another stereoscope I bought. It's a bit broken, and it for this one it didn't fit because it requires smaller images, and I have to print it on a smaller paper. I will do it. I need to print it on a yeah on something smaller. Voila. So here is the finished image, and here I took some more photos. So this one is in the first stereoscope I bought. Another image of my old stereoscope. And I had a friend who told me, I have a stereoscope at home. And so I said, wait, I will send you some images. And so I sent it to him. And actually, it's a friend who was in the Belgian army. And this stereoscope is a stereoscope that was used by the army. And I think it was the people who were in the tanks who were using it to see the ground, to see images of the grounds. And so it's funny because my little monkey was traveling and he ended up on the army stereoscope. Here you are having another view of the stereoscope. And here is the stereoscope without the image. And I was happy because it was fitting too. The size was good. And then I wanted to make some more 3D images. So this one, for the first time, I really made it, and I knew when I made it that I would make it in 3D. And this image is actually a homage to the Italy of the 50s because I'm half Italian myself. My mom is Italian. And this image is an image of a Sponjo near a river by night in Italy in the 50s. Because in Italy in the 50s, they had a lot of fireflies around the rivers. And after the 50s, there was the industrialization and there was a lot of pollution. And unfortunately, a lot of fireflies disappeared. You can still see some fireflies, but not as many as there were in the 50s, apparently. So I made this little image as a homage to these fireflies in Italy. And here is the crossed, oh yes, the crossed eyes version. And one thing I wanted to do with this image was to play with very small elements. You know, I like to put small elements like the fireflies here. And before I was also putting small elements like the leaves, because actually they pop out really well when you have them on a 3D image. And when you look at the image in 2D, the effect is completely different because you don't notice the tiny dots like this, the tiny elements so much. And it's the contrary when you watch a 3D image, the little dots they really pop out a lot. And this is one thing I wanted to use. I like to use very small elements like this. I think they work very well on a 3D image. So here is the combined cross-ties view and the parallel view that I was publishing. And here is one more image I did. It's my New Year's card for it was my New Year's card for 2024. So it's Sponjo and his friend, the little hippo, and the little duck, some mice and some boars, and they go to look at the constellation of the dragon, because in the Chinese horoscope, we were entering the year of the dragon. And for this one, I wanted to try to make a circular composition and see what happens. Voila. And so here is the cross-tie version. So I use the same method. I put everything on different layers and then I move the layers hand by hand. Then I do the border. And I was publishing it on a social network. And again, I was happy with the response. Apparently, the people liked it. And I had a very nice comment. I had a man telling me that the cross ties view was magical. So I was very happy with this. And here is a printed version of the parallel view. And yeah, here is another thing I did. This is a photo because actually I am printing. I like to print fabric. I made a pattern to use with my little monkey, and I printed the pattern on it's a cotton popeline fabric. And then I used a photo camera, Panasonic Lumix FZ1000, and I don't have a double lens, or I take a picture and then I go like 6 or 7 centimeters on the side and I take some other pictures and then I try to see which pictures are going well together to have a 3D view. So that's what I did here. Voila. And voila. This is now I would just like to say so this is more or less what I wanted to tell you about my little monkey 3D stereoscopic view. And I wanted to talk a bit about my project now. I am working for the moment for my New Year's card because we are entering the year of the snake. So I'm doing a card with a snake that will be in 3D. And I'd love to make some children book, a little children book too, with Sponjo illustration. I'm still thinking about what kind of story would be nice for the children book. And I'm also doing animation. So for Halloween, you can see this on my Instagram page. I was doing the first part of a animated short film with Sponjo, and now I'm working on a new little animation sequence, and I'd like to put it in 3D. I'd like to experiment to see if I can make a short animation in 3D. So I will see if it works, and if my computer is cooperating, I will see. Voila. So I guess I think that's more or less what I wanted to tell you. And I want to thank again the VSC for the invitation. I hope you enjoyed my little presentation. Thank you for listening.